Hey, this is Blake Moynes from season 16 of The Bachelorette.
Hi, this is Alana Milne from season 25 of The Bachelor.
Hey, I'm Lindsay Hamilton.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching Bros Ceremony.
This is The Bros Ceremony.
Your journey's about to begin.
Recapping the week that was in Bachelor Nation and previewing what's to come in the next episode with some special betting odds.
Everyone can't wait to find out what happens next week.
Here are your hosts, Michael the Hound Dog Harrison and Adam Scully.
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
Hello and welcome inside episode 11 of the Bros Ceremony podcast. Adam Scully alongside Michael the Hound Dog Harrison. Exciting episode. We have a special guest joining us in a little bit, but first things first, Michael, your face down to the wood. Woo, baby, you are looking fresh, my friend.
Yeah, it was a long time coming. I think I had that beard I didn't shave for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, something along those lines. And, it took me freaking forever to be able to shave it all off. Oh my God. It took me almost an hour because I don't have an electric razor, which was my first mistake. But yeah, it just feels so nice to be fresh and looking good, at least for a little while. So yeah, got me looking good, at least for one episode, I would say.
I think you've looked great for every episode, and your hair now, like it's almost, you're not quite Dwight Schrute, but it's sort of, it's teetering on that.
It's I think it's like the third character to the show. If you and I are just talking, it's basically what character and what guy is going to show up the hair. You just never know every single episode. So it is a dumpster fire of a disaster.
It is something, but I think you look great. You look fresh. We'll have an in-depth preview of tonight's episode of The Bachelor with our special guest who we'll get into in just a little bit. But in the last week or so, controversy has been surrounding Bachelor Nation and specifically host Chris Harrison, who was doing an interview with Rachel Lindsay where some controversial comments were made. And Michael, there's some news around that.
Yeah, so he was so we talked about this in a previous episode about how Rachel on this season, not Rachel Lindsay, Rachel on this season had made had some posts on social media that were way, way wrong and offside and bad from a couple of years ago. I believe it was from 2018. And so I think Chris was trying to defend Rachel's actions, and it came across as really, really tone deaf and just frankly awful, like just not good at all. And so, yeah, he said he's going to take some time away from the show because he was excusing historical racism. And some of these parties that Rachel went to a couple of years ago were not good or whatever. And the show, I believe I was reading from Reality Steve, he was saying they didn't allow Rachel to basically defend her actions or whatever for the longest time, over a week. She wasn't able to say anything. And then she finally put out the boilerplate remark or a statement, which seemed very, corporate lawyer speak or whatever. But yeah, so Chris was trying to defend Rachel to Rachel Lindsay, who was the host. And honestly, it was like a 4-minute clip. It was just cringeworthy. It was just, he kept saying like 2018, it was 2018, oh, that was okay 3 years ago. No, it wasn't. It wasn't good to go to a racist themed party 3 years ago. I don't understand. He was talking about 2018 like it was 1998 or something along those lines. That was truly weird. He kept saying the woke police online, and he kept hammering that point home that everyone's trying to skewer people. Very, very defiant in what he was saying. It just came across as awful. It was not a good look for him at all. And he released this statement saying when talking about how he's going to be taking some time away, he won't be after the final rose ceremony. He said, "This historic season should not be marred or overshadowed by mistakes or diminished by my actions." Like there's obviously a big not opportunity. There's a big chance that he might never host The Bachelor again. So this is a moving story of targets, and things are going to be changing as the days go on. But it was not good at all.
Not good at all, and we'll continue to update all of our Bros Ceremony fans and viewers of the show on this ongoing situation as news continues to break. But as you mentioned, he will not be hosting the After the Final Rose ceremony for the first time in a very long time, no Chris Harrison involved with a Bachelor themed event or show. We'll have much more on this as news continues to develop and break in the coming weeks. But I mentioned earlier in the show here that we have a special guest joining us, and that is Taylor Lucas. We've both done some work together, and she is also a Bachelor insider. She knows everything about Bachelor Nation. She has an inside source as well. And it's important to note, Michael, that we recorded this interview before the news broke about Chris Harrison.
Yes, absolutely. Because obviously, if we'd done the interview after that news came out, clearly we would have been talking about it for quite some time. So yeah, Taylor was not privy to this information about Chris Harrison, which again, like there was that 4-minute video that was posted on Twitter. And as I said already, it's just, like I said, it's just, I can understand if you maybe make one wrong remark, perhaps to where it's like, okay, like he made one, but the fact, like I said, he was just so defiant in excusing what Rachel's actions were. It came across as so tone deaf and really not good at all. So we interviewed Taylor and she didn't know that information because that came out after we discussed with her.
We also discussed The Bachelor, the upcoming episode tonight, what Heather is going to do, who maybe the next Bachelorette could be. A lot of rumors swirling around Bachelor Nation involved with the next Bachelorette. Michael, I think it's time to go to the interview with Taylor Lucas.
Cheers to the first group date.
And we're pleased to welcome Bachelor insider Taylor Lucas to the show. Taylor, welcome to the Bro Ceremony.
Hello, handsome gentlemen. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
We are stellar. Now, we were just talking before we brought you on about Michael's shorn face. You know, he decided to go right down to the wood. It wasn't like, you know, he had a beard going. He didn't try to go with the 5 o'clock shadow. He just went right down to the wood. Immediate thoughts.
I love a clean shaved man. That's all I can say.
Dang.
Looking fresh, young. You're ready to take on Valentine's Day as a hot, young single.
Well, I don't know about the hot part, but single, sure. But that's about it, probably. Yeah. It took me about 10 hours to be able to shave for this podcast, but here we are, excited to do it, both of you guys.
A little late to the recording, but we won't talk about that. So Taylor, obviously this season of The Bachelor has been riveting, dramatic. It's been incredible. But for you, how did you initially get into the show, and who was the first Bachelor or Bachelorette that you watched?
Yeah. Okay. First got into the show back in, I think, 6th grade because I just got a TV in my room. So
yeah, I feel
big
old
shot,
now.
feeling very cool, very free. And I remember my friend's mom always watching it. So, you know, the freedom of a TV in my bedroom, started watching it myself. And the first season was Brad Womack's, his first season, because as you know, he had 2 seasons. So that would have been 2007. And from there, I've watched every season. I don't know if it's because I love it or if it's because I hate it or if it's because I'm living vicariously through it. I don't know, but I'm now an addict.
I thought you were going to say Brad Womack's second season when I was going to be like, oh my God, because that was my first season was Brad Womack's second season. I thought you were going to say you were in grade 6 and I was going to, oh my God, I'm like 73 years old then. I felt really, really old. Oh my God.
No, don't worry. I think it might've been actually 7th grade, 6th or 7th grade, 2007, somewhere in there.
Oh, man, what a great season. Brad Womack guy was definitely hooked. I remember my roommate was trying to get me into the show. I said, I rebuffed it, said no chance. Within 5 minutes, I'm like, I'm hooked. I'm in. And I've not missed a single episode or second of it since.
And he had quite the controversial season too, both his seasons, really. He was kind of known to be a jerk. And so I remember that like really drew me in. You know, and then we had some good ones after that. Jason Mesnick's season, I remember the Mesnick, as they call it, when he was crying off the balcony. You remember that? You guys remember that? Oh, come on, guys.
I don't watch some of the Bachelorette seasons. I didn't watch until the last like 5 years or so. I don't know. I can't watch. I didn't watch all of them until the last maybe 5 years.
Yeah, I have no life. It's fine.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. Now, so you got into it in 2007. Of the Bachelors, let's start there, that you've watched, who's your favorite?
Okay. I think a classic favorite, just like default, who everyone just loves, is Sean Lowe. You have to love Sean Lowe because he's just like, he was the whole package. He was, a good guy. He was a Christian, like that. He was like an ex-football player. He was buff. And then he chose Catherine, and they're still together. They have 3 kids. Like, he's the Bachelor success story. So obviously I enjoyed that season. I think his season was 2013. So, that was right in the middle of me being a Bachelor fan. So I love that season. But my favorite Bachelor, and I think it's because he's my type, is Ben Higgins. I just love Ben. I think the way he handled the end of his season wasn't great. Told 2 girls he loved them. Hate to see it. But we got JoJo out of Ben's season, who was my favorite Bachelorette. And Ben is he's just you can tell he's just such a good dude. Like, he's a down home kind of guy, but he wasn't, he wasn't unrealistic in what he wanted. He didn't really subscribe to the drama. And I liked his final few picks. There was that, what was her name? Kayla. And then it was JoJo and Lauren. I liked all of them. And he's hot. He's so hot. So Ben Higgins.
You have an amazing memory, because I find, like, after the season ends, I have a few people's names still lodged in my brain, but afterwards it's like, I don't remember names at all. So yeah, some of those people.
Oh yeah, it's just a encyclopedia up here when it comes to The Bachelor.
It's interesting you say Ben Higgins, because we teased this a couple episodes ago when we had Lindsay Hamilton on.
I know.
Possibly, maybe something to do with it. Yeah, who knows?
I know. I heard that. He's happily engaged now, so I'm not going to try and slide in, but I love Ben. I do love him.
So what do you think of the current season? What's going on? Did you like Queen Victoria? I'm assuming you hated Queen Victoria like everyone else did, but you just have to admit that she was pretty awesome TV, right?
Yeah, but and I remember, this is kind of how I got in contact with you guys. I knew it right away. Victoria, there's no chance she's not an actor. There's just no chance that she's not an actor. So it's tough for me to, hate or love her or like be super invested in the drama, because it was just so obviously fake. No one behaves that way. You cannot convince me otherwise. But like, I think what kind of happened was there hasn't been a good villain in quite a while, in my opinion. We haven't had that we haven't had that Chad. You guys remember Chad?
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't had a Chad in a while. Someone where you're like, screw them. Like, we haven't had that in a real long time. You had Crystal, you had Corinne, and you had Demi, but they were so lovable in the end. You kind of liked them in a way still. And so they needed that villain that people hate, just hate them so much. Bring in Victoria, she's got to be an actor, but I think it's very interesting. And as far as the rest of the season has been going, I think we're seeing what I like to call a very typical Bachelor season. I prefer the Bachelorette seasons because we get less of the petty drama and more of the like real life tough stuff. I think, men are just kind of a little bit less dramatic in that way. And I hate the petty fights that we're seeing a lot this season. But I think Matt is handling it as well as you can, as someone who's just coming in from outside of the Bachelor world. So I'm giving it a chance. I loved Tayshia's season. Loved it. I loved it. This one, I'm giving it like a 7 so far.
So you say you loved Tayshia's season. Did you love the start of Tayshia's season, which of course was Claire? What do you think of the Claire and Dale stuff?
God, my heart goes out to Claire because I know the type of girl that Claire is. She's a hopeless romantic. She wants to be loved. She's at the end of her rope. She just wants someone to love her. And so I think a lot of people were really hard on her. I kind of wish that Tayshia would have got the beginning that she deserved. But as far as how it started with Claire, I personally feel bad for Claire. I didn't love the way that all kind of went down. I'm very upset about her and Dale. I think it's really sad, but I think after all that kind of, faded And then we got into Tasha's season. It was great. But as far as how it started, you know, God, I just feel bad for Claire. I just really feel bad for Claire. Because I'm okay, I'm not Claire. But you know, I get it. You just want to be loved. You're like, gosh, someone just be nice to me. And I understand. I mean, I wouldn't get engaged after 2 weeks, but I can see why she fell for Dale. I get it, you know?
There's something I never quite there. I don't know what it was. I felt Dale always felt glib to me, just a little bit too cocksure, which I guess he was because she loved him right away. And then it turned out, unfortunately, that it didn't work out, sadly.
No, I know. We saw that coming though, right? We all saw it coming.
Did you say cocksure?
Yes.
I've never heard of that word before.
Yes, I'm not just going to say that word without.
I don't know. I've never heard it before.
If I were to throw that word into the conversation and it wasn't an expression, that'd be pretty weird.
Add it to your personal dictionary.
Yeah, there's no way to segue from that. But you mentioned Victoria earlier. She liked one of our Instagram posts when Michael and I spoke about how she left the show. So Victoria, open invite. You're welcome to join us here on the Bros Ceremony. But speaking of drama, in last week's episode, Katie was surprisingly let go, some would say. And now there are rumors circulating around the interwebs that she is the next Bachelorette.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that for everyone, Adam? Yeah, for anyone who's watching who didn't want to know that. Now you just spoiled it for them. I was going to actually set that up by saying there are rumors about Katie, but if you really want to know, look on the internet. But
it's, you know what? I think it is strictly a rumor because we've seen this before where they've said that someone was a shoo-in for the role. A perfect example is Ben Higgins' season. JoJo was not set and was not the person that they announced or unofficially announced as a Bachelorette, and then surprise, she was. So I don't think it's a spoiler, but I think she'd make a great Bachelorette. And I think what we saw between her and Matt is something that we see pretty often, which is what I like to call the friend zone contestant. They're usually the funny one. They're usually the one that kind of brings some comic relief. I think we saw that with Easy last season. You know, someone that makes everyone laugh. They're good looking, but the actual Bachelor or Bachelorette sees them as a buddy, like, you know. And I think on that date with Katie, we saw it. We saw the friendship. I mean, I love Katie. I like, you know, my new favorite thing is what she did. The thank you for the feedback. That's going to be my new go-to.
That was great.
I think she's great, and I think she'd make a really good Bachelorette. I like that she's older. She's 29, perfect age for a Bachelorette. I think she sets realistic standards for women. I think she's really funny. She kind of reminds me a little bit of Caitlin Bristow in that, like, you know, I'm funny, I can make a dirty joke, but I can also be serious kind of way. So I hope that those rumors are true.
It was so interesting to me, like when they were at the table and Matt took the rose and he had in his hand, of course, her face lit up thinking she was going to get the rose. And that's just so cold that the Bachelor producers make him hold the rose and dangle it in front of her and then go, by the way, no dice, you're gone.
And they did it with MJ as well. You know, he had it in his hand and he said, MJ,
bye-bye.
Unfortunately, I can't give you this rose.
And by the way,
That's the worst.
Yeah.
I've talked about this on this podcast several times, and it happened again this episode. MJ and Katie both left the show, went in the limousine afterwards. Both didn't wear a seatbelt every single time. Well, someone wear I almost swear.
Come on.
Gosh darn seatbelt, you know?
Road safety comes first.
Come on, guys.
Now, something else we talk about on this show a lot is some of the hit words they use, like vulnerable and process and walls down, that sort of thing. How do you think that works out? I mean, you have sources, but how, like, do they sit everyone down and say, okay, you have to say vulnerable every 8th word or something? How do you think that all shakes out?
From what I've heard, there is, it's almost like, you know, the whole, I was about to say the whole process. The whole journey of filming, you know, it's not like, you know, you have a seminar before and they're like, here's what you can and can't say. But during the whole filming process, they kind of stop you if you say something that doesn't align with their Bachelor vocabulary. So, you know, if I'm doing like the confessional and I say, oh yeah, this, whatever, I can't think of a word that they wouldn't
like. Competition, I guess, or something.
Yeah, this competition. They would stop and make me re-say it. So it's not like they're getting like training before or anything. But they definitely keep a set amount of things you can and can't say. And they kind of just work around that, edit it around it a little bit,
Wow. See, that's the info we bring you here on the Bros Ceremony with our Bachelor insider, Taylor Lucas. Now, another big moment or surprise, I guess, was when Heather decided to pull up with the van, driving a van. And of course, Uncle Chris Harrison had no idea that she was there. Of course not.
Shocker.
I had no clue.
Now, Heather spent some time quarantining in her hotel room because, COVID's a thing. But one thing I noticed, she was doing a bit of a workout with a hot pizza box on her head. Have you ever done the same thing?
Yeah, like every night.
But also, I would hope that you actually would have pizza that was hot in that pizza, because it wasn't a fresh pizza. There was no steam coming out of that pizza. It was like, I'm convinced it probably wasn't even pizza in that box.
Yeah, that's the only way that I work out, is with food that I can eat after the workout. So yeah, Heather, like, I totally get that. But as far as her coming into the show, like, it's just one of those corny, pathetic things that the show does. They do it to annoy the audience or to draw you in to watch so that you can see it implode. Like, they know that there's no one out there that's like, yes, Heather, the girl who was never kissed. Yeah, like, no one was rooting for Heather week 6. Like, they do it so to kind of tick everyone off, to get them, a little riled up. And the whole, I did read that her, like, Hannah, I should say, her friend Hannah, who was the Bachelorette, did genuinely think that Heather and Matt, I should say, would be a good match. But, you don't bring someone in week 6. You don't do it. And they're not going to, someone coming in week 6 is not going to win. They're not.
What's interesting,
so everyone involved knew that this was just some stunt that was going to be pulled. Even Heather knew that. Come on.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. What I find interesting about her coming in, of course, the women didn't react to at the end of the episode. They didn't react too favorably to that. And then going into this episode tonight, they make it all these women who were ripping on Queen Victoria and MJ and who was the other, Anna, earlier in the season for being mean girls. Then they all started to turn to being mean girls about Heather. It's like they've literally just shifted the goalposts.
Newsflash: girls can be mean. Girls can be mean. Yeah, and I was kind of talking about this with Adam earlier. There's every time, I find in this season, every time someone, a villain leaves, someone else just decides to be dramatic. We saw that this episode with Serena C, right? Kind of like was a little bit quieter. Maybe she threw some dirty looks, but all of a sudden, out goes MJ, in comes Serena, so it's obviously very producer influenced. I think these women kind of speaking their mind, it does start to feel a little pathetic. It's a little petty and annoying, but that's what I'm telling you, or that's what I was telling you before, right? That's the difference between the Bachelor and the Bachelorette. It's, we don't really see this stuff too often on the Bachelorette, but we see it all the time on the Bachelor.
Definitely. I was going to make that point earlier as well, that you just said that whenever one of these women leave, then the next woman up to be the one that creates the drama or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I call it the spirit of Victoria, like Victoria's spirit just taking over someone else's body. She never actually left.
Speaking of which, when
around trying to find someone else.
When Katie left and the person came in, the woman came in to grab her bag to leave, it looked like Queen Victoria to me. Did you notice that at all? I was like, wait a minute. Oh, that would have been.
Oh, I didn't notice. I have to go back and watch that.
It really looked like her. Like, it was just so funny if like that was like the stunt, and then Queen Victoria was the one to bring the bag out. Oh, I would love that.
The luggage girl is just like side-eyeing everybody.
That's amazing. We're in conversation here with our Bachelor insider, Taylor Lucas. So the episode ended last week with Heather coming in, Matt laughing that, seeing her. What do you think happens next? Does Heather get a rose?
So here's where my Bachelor obsession really comes in handy, because I study these previews for next episodes like, a team studying game tape. So what I have come to the conclusion of is I've looked through every preview for the season since week 1. There is no additional footage of Heather outside of when we see her come in tonight's episode. So what I'm thinking is Matt is just gonna, pull a Heather, so great to see you. We're cool. I like you, but I really need to give these other women my full attention. And she's gone the first night. We see no footage of Heather outside of when she arrives. And that is immediately telling me we don't even see her in the background of like group dates. Kind of when they're all sitting on the couches, when they get group date cards and all that stuff. We see nothing. No more footage of Heather. She's going just as quickly as she comes.
That's very funny you bring that up because we've talked about this on this podcast before, like the previews, and then it would be interesting to go back and watch the actual episode itself and see like how dramatic the preview made it seem, and then that situation probably wasn't that crazy. But I was just too lazy to actually do that. So it's very interesting that you've done the work for us and you've explained that it really hasn't been as crazy. But yeah, it's an interesting point. I think
she's going to be gone. She's going to be gone right away. Mark that down.
And that's why you're our Bachelor insider. Before we let you go, Taylor, if you haven't read any of the spoilers, let me ask you, do you know what happens?
No.
Okay.
I've only been spoiled for 2 seasons in the past. I am unspoiled.
And so first of all, brilliant. A couple things. I was going to ask you one final question, but I must tell you that I, by accident, spoiled last season for Michael this was, you know what? I've had a couple pucks fired at my head, clearly. I texted him the winner and he, for about 2 hours, we weren't speaking. I don't know if you want to tell that story, Michael, or.
Oh, no.
So yeah, he texts, we've talked about this before. He texts me like, I'm going to try to get, what was the guy's name who won last season?
Zach.
What's his name?
Zach.
I'm going to try to get Zach and Tasha on the next episode. I'm like, well, so obviously I know right away, but he texts like 6 other texts afterwards. So obviously I'm going to be looking at the text because it's like, oh my God, is he in trouble or something? Like 7 straight texts. That's you try to bring attention. So you try to take attention away from it by sending 7 texts, but you brought more attention to it by sending 7 texts. And
Adam.
And he knows I watch the show because I work late hours. He knows I watch it when I go home. Oh, Adam.
I feel shame. And Taylor, if you're ever in the situation, something similar, you cannot unsend or delete an iMessage already sent. And I've
heard.
Now,
Now,
so who do you think wins?
There you go.
Who do I think wins?
Yeah. Or who do you think steals Matt's heart and leaves engaged?
Okay. Again, this is strictly based off of game tape. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we see footage of what I think are fantasy suite dates with Bree and Michelle. The other person the other 2 people I should say that stick out to me are obviously Rachel. He has very strong feelings for Rachel. As we saw, he told Rachel that he was falling in love with her. So I could see Rachel there. And then we have Serena P. For some reason, I don't see it happening with Serena P. She's a little too young, I think. I don't really see that happening. So final 3, in my opinion, would be Michelle, Bree, and Rachel. Now, unfortunately, I loved Abigail, but we don't see much additional footage outside of next week when it comes to her. It's not going to be Kit. We know that. It's not going to be Chelsea. We know that. It's not going to be Jess. It's not going to be Serena C. So
Piper? What about Piper?
Okay, so here's what I was going to say about Piper. We saw her one-on-one last week where she told Matt she was falling in love with him. He did not say anything of the sort back. All he said was, "I'm here for you throughout this. You can lean on me, and we'll work towards this together." Whereas, like I said, with Rachel the week before, he's saying it back. He didn't even say to Piper, anything of the sort at all. Not even, I could see myself going further with you. Nothing. We got really kind of nothing besides, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. And I'm here for you. So I like Piper, but we don't see a lot of footage of her in the previews following next week. and we didn't get that reciprocation from Matt. So just based on strictly on the facts here, those are my final three. And then it's gotta be Michelle or Rachel for me. I don't know what it is about Rachel that I don't love. I just can't pinpoint it. I'm not getting the wholesome vibes. With Zach last season, how he was just so lovable, and you could just see that they are so perfect for each other. I'm not getting that with Rachel. Michelle, I love. If it was up to me, it would be Michelle. But for some reason, I just see the way that he looks at Rachel, and we're seeing a lot of footage of her coming up. So I'm gonna say I think Rachel wins, but I want Michelle to win.
Yep, that's I think you're spot on. I agree.
And that is why you are our Bachelor insider, giving that detailed of an answer to who is the victor. If any of you guys are in a Bachelor pool, take a listen to that answer from Taylor, and maybe that will help you win your Bachelor fantasy pool. Taylor, thanks so much for joining us here on the Bros Ceremony, and enjoy the rest of the season.
Thank you guys so much. This is the kind of stuff that I always do in secret. No one knows that I'm this involved in the Bachelor world, so I'm very glad that I have other people to talk about it with now, and thank you for having me.
Ladies, gentlemen, it's the final rose tonight.
Michael, again, many thanks to our Bachelor insider, Taylor Lucas, for joining us here on the Bros Ceremony. And how about that insight, the knowledge? She knows everything about Bachelor Nation.
Well, like I said to her when we were talking to her, as we've discussed before, like, oh, I'd love to know what those previews were like, and then what the episode eventually turned out to be. But I was just far too lazy to go back and parse the whole thing and actually go through a good word, by the way, parse, and go through the whole thing. It's like, you know what? I just couldn't be bothered to do all that work. And so I'm glad she did. And it's very interesting, the insight. And as much as I would love if my pick from before the season started, Abigail would go through, I didn't even realize, the whole, that she hasn't been in a lot of the scenes coming up. I hope I'm wrong, but it does seem like she might be gone maybe tonight. I hope I'm wrong, or at least pretty soon. I think Abigail's awesome. She's so sweet. But her analysis, unfortunately, is that likely Abigail will be gone. So, yeah, it's too bad. I would have been surprised that Katie left. Had I not, unfortunately, saw a tweet like a week before, maybe it was like the Thursday before the episode, I think it was from Reality Steve, saying, like, essentially they said on the tweet, he was like, spoiler, and then a word later, Katie, and then it's like there was no like spoiler and then like a bunch of spaces or something. So basically, he seems like he's tweeting in the school of Adam Scully, perhaps the text that Adam Scully has, and he's like, yeah, Katie was going to lose on Monday, and she's going to be the next Bachelorette. It's like, oh, cool, great, awesome. But yeah, I would have been surprised had I not seen that she is gone. But yeah, it was pretty interesting how, like I said, he had the rose and then just said bye-bye.
For more insights from Taylor, you can follow her on Instagram at TayJeanLuke, or follow her on Twitter at TaylorJeanLucas. Again, Taylor, thanks for joining us. And I think we'll have to have Taylor on again, because the insight, the analysis, the brilliance, the intelligence, I think we'll have to have her on again. Probably I think at some point during the next season of The Bachelorette, we'll have to have her on again.
Sounds good to me. Hey, can I make a couple comments about things we didn't discuss with her?
I think sure.
There's two things that I wanted to bring up. When they were on that bowling date, first of all, they were all pretty bad at bowling, it seemed like. But
they were not great at bowling.
And we've seen, of course, before, they've talked about it, we've discussed this, how they put the food out for whenever they're on their dates, their one-on-one dates.
Yep.
How freaking rattled would you have been if you were on that date? And I don't know if you noticed this, all the pizzas, of course, that were there. Obviously, you noticed that the pizzas and the chicken wings and all that stuff. None of it was eaten. None of it.
Of course.
So, like, how rattled would you be? Like, if you're on this date to do bowling and you're looking over and you're seeing that food there and you're like, I can't eat that. Grr! That would just drive you crazy, wouldn't it?
You wonder, and hopefully we can get one of the contestants who was on that date on the Bros Ceremony here. You wonder if they gave them something similar before actually going on the date. So they already had the feeling of crushing some za or some wings or some nachos. Yeah. Maybe there's some garlic bread there as well. This is making me hungry just thinking about this. But
I hadn't thought, but actually they ate the pizza. that I was talking about from Heather's pizza on that she was balancing on her head. There was no
Oh,
pizza in there, I said, and it wasn't steaming. It wasn't a fresh pizza. They took the pizza from there, and that pizza box was empty. And that's the food they had for that date. That's what happened.
I think that's a great theory. Now, you mentioned how they weren't, a number of the ladies on the date weren't very good at bowling. How are you as a bowler?
Pretty darn good. I only ever do it like once every, gosh, like 5 years or something like that now. But I remember I was thinking about this the other day randomly. It's funny you bring that up. That I used to get so angry back in the day playing. It was so fun. Not much has changed, but I love bowling. I'm pretty good, not amazing, but pretty good. But it's a sport that I find you don't play enough. Do you play it enough? We should go bowling, is what I'm saying.
I think we should go bowling. I haven't bowled in, I don't know, 10 years probably. If you were to compare, we'll get back to the Bachelor here momentarily. We've gone on a bit of a tangent here. If you were to compare your bowling game to that of a professional golfer, who would it be?
Let's go with everyone. Of course, everyone knows this household name, Charlie Hoffman. Of course, Charlie Hoffman, 4-time winner on the PGA Tour. Pretty good career. He made a bunch of money, but not exactly a household. Wait, of course, he's not a household name to most people. I would say 99% of people watching this probably have no idea who Charlie Hoffman is, including maybe even some of his family members because he's not a super well-known name. But I would say I'm the Charlie Hoffman. So pretty good, but not amazing at bowling. You?
I would say I'm the Rich Beam of bowling. A flash in the pan. I would dance. I would celebrate. I'd enjoy myself, and I would milk that one major victory for the rest of time because he can. He can do that.
Yeah, you're calling yourself a major winner. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's unique. Damn.
It is unique. Now, speaking of unique, before we sign off for this episode, how about the date that Katie was on with Matt? Yes, she was eliminated, but I got to say, in terms of funny dates, how that all transpired, hanging out with Matt, with the actress hired to massage Tyler Cameron with the earpiece in, I thought that was brilliant.
I think the thought behind it was brilliant. I thought the execution was just okay. It was like the actress there didn't really feed them any, or at least that we didn't see anyway, any funny lines. They weren't really improving very well there to give like ridiculous comments to Tyler. It was good in theory, but I just didn't really feel it was overly hilarious. And the payoff wasn't really that interesting. Tyler was just like, he looked at Matt and was like, oh, whatever, man. Like, it wasn't really that great. So we had this, the massage and this great date or whatever. I just didn't really feel it was that much of a happy ending really to that, I would say.
There definitely wasn't a happy ending to that. That's for sure. So too bad to see Katie go. We'll see if these rumors are true as we go forward here. And, speaking of rumors and spoiling things, if you will, we've mentioned at length here that clearly we don't read the spoilers because we're in a Bachelor pool. And boy, oh boy, I know I suck. You don't suck as much as I suck at this pool, but fill our viewers in on how we are currently doing. Or are you saying that you suck more than I do, that I suck at this pool now?
Careful with your words there. No, you're still doing worse than me, but the gap has been, the gap's been closed, whatever I'm trying to say. I bridged the gap. I don't know. But yeah, you're 45th. I'm 41st. So
we're making waves here.
Yeah. So yeah,
you moved down.
You moved off the last page of the leaderboard when there was like, I think 50 through like 55 was in the last page. So you're in the second page now, and I'm just 4 spots ahead of you. So yeah, we're both terrible. But at this point, I have to make ridiculous. Like, for example, I picked MJ for this last week only because I'm thinking I need to make a comeback here. The only way I'm going to win this pool is to pick someone who's no one is going to pick. So I picked MJ in hopes that, of course, it blew up my face. It didn't work. But when you get that far behind, you have to take the risky picks. So that's my excuse as to why I'm not doing better.
Well, I'm going to make it my sole purpose to take you down in this pool. It'd be an extreme comeback to see if I can, I was on the last page of the leaderboard, and now I'm making my way up only 4 spots behind you. Where will our pool picks go next? You can tune in tonight to The Bachelor, 8 p.m. Eastern, ABC, City TV, or if you watch the next day, maybe just don't go onto Instagram. Hopefully I don't spoil anything for anyone. I can't really promise much, but it's been a great season so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where Matt's heart leads him next. We're now over 300 followers on Instagram. Thanks so much for everyone for liking our stuff, for commenting on our stuff, for sharing our stuff. And hopefully we can get ahead here, get the 400, maybe by next week. Michael, as they say, only time will tell. This has been episode 11 here of the Bros Ceremony podcast. For Michael the Hound Dog Harrison, I'm Adam Scully. We'll see you next time right here on the Bros Ceremony.